Tell you what, feeling pretty good about life in general is our next guest, because when we started the new year, I said there'll be a couple of pieces of, if they want to get after things in the state legislature that would be considered kind of low-hanging fruit. They can, in a bipartisan way, go after juvenile justice and have a lot of people nodding their heads, and they can go after civil asset forfeiture, which has had people as diverse as the ACLU and the Mackinac Center and et cetera on its back for years. Well, they did just that. And one of the people at the forefront of this, with bills going forward and now getting to spike the football a bit, is State Senator Peter Lucido from Shelby Township, Macomb County, and he's with us once again. Good morning.
Good morning, Dave, and good morning to the listeners out there. Happy Thursday.
How do you do your touchdown dance on this?
You know what? This time it is going to be a victory for the people, a true victory for the people. Very excited this is going through. 5.5 years ago, Dave, when I got here, I put these bills in as my first initiative. I was working with then Representative Santana from Detroit.
Okay.
And Representative Heisey and myself, we sat down and said, why are we charging individual children at 17 years old? We're one of 4 states that are doing this. And after doing criminal law for 30 years, as well as a probation officer, I realized we've been doing the wrong thing. The interesting part about it is you can't even sit on a jury until you're 18 years of age. That's our law. Yet we bring children at 17-year-olds into a courtroom and try them as adults. And the reality is, have we been doing the right thing? Has this worked? Why are 46 other states doing something different? And why are we different?
Otherwise, at the age of 17, I'm paying the price of an adult, and yet I can't buy a beer for 4 years, really?
Well, here's the other thing, Dave. You can't vote until you're 18.
Right.
You can't buy cigarettes until you're 18. In fact, child support payers, if you look at the statutes, it says child support goes until you're 18, graduate high school, but not beyond 19 and a half while regularly attending high school with enough credits to graduate. So if they're calling children in the statute, in the law, children until 18, why are you bringing them to an adult court? Now, other proponents out there are going to say, oh, you're soft on crime. Listen, everyone, the prosecutors are the charging authority in this state. They always have and always will. They have to make their charges. If they feel that this was a heinous crime, such as murder, rape, sexual assault, they have the right to waive any child at 9, 10, 14, 16 to the adult court and try them as an adult. That's the charging authority. I'm saying like a traffic ticket. Are you kidding me? Do you need to go to adult court at 17 years of age?
That makes sense.
It never makes sense.
No,
and we're spending a lot of money on recidivism by locking these kids up at 17, and you're putting guppies in a shark tank, which they're going to learn ultimately bad criminal behavior from the adults.
This will be on a fast track to the governor's desk.
Very much so, Dave. In the House, they ran a package of bills. Some of my colleagues that remained in the House have been on those packages with me from day one when we dropped these bills when I first got up here. And I'm looking really forward to that day because the discussion has been long. It was very tedious to me understanding why somebody couldn't vote for this. But the reality is when it was put up on the board yesterday in the Senate, passed out of it all these packages of bills, bipartisan on both sides of the aisle. That told me good things are happening.
Now, on the flip side here, civil asset forfeiture also through the House, and this one went through, and you led that charge in the Senate, this one went through lickety-split as well, so it's a twofer.
It's interesting, Dave. When I first got here, that was my first bill. It was the first bill I put in as a House of Representative member, and I've been putting it in ever since. I got it through the House last term, all the way through the House, got to the Senate, died. And there's a lot of reasons, but the main reason was the chairman was a former sheriff and didn't want it to go through. So here's how it works. I have to reintroduce it. I have to roll my sleeves up again and start all over and start, advocating to brand new members that never served before about a bill they never heard of. There is where the stress level comes in because it's like, if there was no term limits, I wouldn't have to do this, and everybody's already been sensitized. But now I've gotten colleagues in both the chambers, and that's the beauty of it, because the ones that remember are doing a lot of my work.
Just to explain for listeners here, this isn't about, okay, someone gets convicted in the act of being convicted. Maybe they ran through, pieces of property, knocked over vehicles, drove through a house, had drugs. Okay, is their vehicle forfeit? No, this is different. This is about you haven't even been charged with a crime, but your property can be attached and you can lose it even if you're never charged with a crime, let alone convicted. That's where Michigan stood, right? Or still stands until it changes.
They did this back many years ago because they wanted never to see a criminal profit from criminal activity. And I agree with that.
Sure.
I don't think any criminal out there should profit. But what it did is they expanded and went too far and overreached, and they started taking, and somebody gets pulled over. They believe that the money in their pocket, $10,000, is an instrumentality or associated with a crime. They reach right on in, take it, and they say it's going to get forfeited. It's like, wait, I haven't been charged with anything. Doesn't matter. We have the authority to do it. And I said, wait a minute. This is wrong. I've seen this in practice. I've seen the family get very upset when they do a search warrant, don't find anything, and start ripping TVs off the wall. And as a result, I said, hold it. Somebody better be charged first. Somebody better be convicted second before you go ahead and dispose of their property. That's what this law is. It's called fairness. It's called due process. It's called making sure officers are in check and making sure that the citizens have their rights restored. Well, I think that's what this is.
Yeah, common sense and due process would dictate you shouldn't. I mean, if you put it like you said, prosecutors hold the cards here. If they file charges, take you through. If you're convicted, you lose. That's it. You can appeal, but if you lose there, you're out. And if they have to wait a little longer to pick up the property, then they have to wait. But then
that's the problem.
It'll be through the process.
Yeah. I asked law enforcement up on the stand out here, tell me why you can't wait. Why do you have to get that property and get it sold as fast as you can? And no answer came. And no listener could come up with an answer right now today. Like, why don't you let them go through the court system if you're going to charge them? And if the jury convicts them, they have an appeal process. And if they lose, so be it. Then the property is forfeited.
Peter, back in the day, I remember talking to a friend of mine. We were in New Orleans, and he said, I'm careful when I'm driving up to Shreveport and Baton Rouge. Why? Well, I get pulled over if there's a problem, and I got to go to court. I mean, the cop who pulls me over gets to take and keep a percentage of what's in. He gets to keep it. He gets to keep it. I said, well, there's an incentive for them to pull you over and take your stuff. Why would you want to allow that under the law? He goes, well, you haven't been to Louisiana. But again, this is a throwback. Now, I want to ask you about the gas tax out here. I don't see. We had Tom Baird on yesterday. He said, hey, I don't see any Democrats throwing in a bill right now to hike the gas tax 45 cents. You and I have talked many times about fixing the roads, but the governor's plan right now, she's working to sell it. I give her credit for that. It doesn't seem like it's gaining a lot of traction.
You know what, Dave? If you look at the 45 cents going in, you first have to back off and say, does Public Act 51 work? I can keep putting money into a blender and keep blending it, but if I'm getting less and less in the Tri-County area where we live, and for my constituents, I'm doing the wrong thing. If every dollar I put in, I get 36 cents back, I think that program doesn't work, and you need to revisit. We need to put the money where we have the most vehicular traffic, period. That's where the roads are being worn out. Southeast Michigan, every picture she takes is from Southeast Michigan, of these potholes. On top of it, look at the number of vehicles registered. It's almost half the vehicles in the state are registered in Southeast Michigan. And this is not just cars. It's trucks and motorcycles. Therefore, where do you think you're going to get the most wear and tear? Insurance company says 25 miles. That's what they peg on your policies is what we charge you in premium, because that's what most people buy homes near their work. They're creatures of habits. At the end of the day, look at where your roads are most worn out. That's where the money is needed. Because when I get past Bay City, I'm on the highway to heaven, not the highway to hell over in Macomb County.
Yeah, I've been on some bad, as I told you before, I've been on some bad ones in your zip code. I've traveled many bad ones here too. But you're right. Macomb is a donor county when it comes to the system. The way it is right now. Joe Biden announces. Are you on board with Joe? You instead of going to the Trump rally, you're going to go with Joe. You like Joe?
Joe, you come out of the dugout, you put your number on and your game face on, and let's see how you play the game. Because here's the reality: if that's the best they got, we're all in trouble. We're all in trouble, and here's why: no new, fresh ideas, same old, and you got to go ahead and say, Let's get somebody that's not been in the political arena. Let's see what fresh ideas they bring, because the old system has never worked. It's broke. And if we keep buying into an old system, stop paying everyone. Get smart. Look for a better, brighter future with somebody else.
Peter Lucido, he'll be announcing at some point for president himself. It may not be this particular cycle, but he's state senator from Shelby Township, Macomb County, as we discuss 2 wins, civil asset forfeiture, and, of course, juvenile justice and what might be next for the gas tax. Thank you, sir, as always.
Dave, have a great day. All the listeners, you too, and drive safely and avoid those potholes.
Amen to that. Coming back, Morning Wake Up, 1320 WILS.